Thank you very much. Let's begin this event with an invocation. I request one of our colleagues from BAF, Rama, to give an invocation song. Rama?
Namo Namo Ganesha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Namo Namo Ganesha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Sindhura Archita Sindhura Vadana, Sundara Gunasadana, Sindhura Archita Sindhura Vadana, Sundara Gunasadana, Namo Namo Ganesha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Trishula Ankusha Dhrutakara Karuna Kisalayopamacharana, Trishula Ankusha Dhrutakara Karuna Kisalayopamacharana, Namo Namo Ganesha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Mahipati Sutta Prabhu Vimalekadanta Iha Para Sukhadata, Mahipati Sutta Prabhu Vimalekadanta Iha Para Sukhadata, Namo Namo Ganesha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Namo Namo Ganesha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Namo Namo Sankatanasha, Namo Namo Ganesha.
Thank you, Rama. That was lovely. Let's start this much awaited program. I call upon Mr. Nagaraj Rao, the President of Bangalore Apartment Federation, to come to the stage. Sir, I request you to welcome the gathering.
Sorry?
I request you to welcome the gathering.
Yeah. Friends, welcome can be done in one word or can go on for 1 hour. I'm not taking 1 hour, I'll just make it brief. Because we are waiting for the chief guest. He has left the office, the principal secretary, Forest and Ecology, whom we met. He promised that he would be coming. He has left the office, but that's why we were waiting. Also, anytime he can join us. In the meantime, we will start off in the meantime. Let me give a small info on the event that we are having today. Not much, because Vikram will be speaking about it in detail. Remember, our slogan is reform, perform, and transform. We have been seeing BAF growing up. He has come. You can invite him, the secretary, on the stage. Then I will come.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. May I request Vikram and Luke to escort our chief guest today, Mr. Vijay Mohan. Please come on the stage, sir. Thank you. Sir, please continue.
No, I hope I can make it longer. Respected Chief Guest, Mr. Vijay Mohan, IFS, Principal Secretary, Ecology and Environment. We are expecting the KSPCB Member Secretary also to join us at any time. At the outset, on behalf of the BAF and all of you, members of the BAF, let me give a special welcome to Mr. Vijay Mohan, the Principal Secretary, who immediately agreed to be with us and who is very proactive. In fact, he was giving more projects than BAF when we met him. So he was very proactive, and we would like to meet you more often, sir, and then utilize take the guidance from you. I'll just give a small info on the BAF. We are a federation of 1,200 RWAs, Resident Welfare Associations, as they are called, with about 2.5 lakhs households and 1 billion citizens, residents, plus equal number of workers. So the politicians who were never looking at the apartments, now they are staring at us and then finding out, oh, it is 2 million. It is all on account of you as members. Our slogan, I was telling, is reform, perform and transform. Identify the initiatives required for the apartments, perform them like many of you have done today. We will be seeing it after some time, and transform. Looking at you, we want others to repeat. With the advice and initiatives provided by the Federation, the apartments have been implementing, most of them like 100% segregation of the waste at the base level, sir. In apartment, I can assure 100% segregation is being done at the base level, the house level, which you can't find in other single houses. And they have saved water up to 25 to 30% by using the water savers and water meters. This was an initiative by the BAF, and most of them have started saving water and also partially utilizing the STP treated water, which was being just thrown out into the storm drain. Now they have started using, but there's a limitation in that also. And when we have brought this to your notice, and they are coming up with a lot of initiatives. He's one of the persons who said that we will take it up, this as a project. And now we are adding green energy to Bangalore. The first is the solar. Many apartments have done it, and recently we have started the EV infrastructure. you saw on the way coming up here, there are about 3 EV charging organizations which are depicting how it can be done. Thus, the apartments have been the champions of environmentally, ecologically sensitive solutions, reducing the negative impact on the climate and contributing positive green solutions, which indicates our strong concern on environment and our intention to create a Hasiru train. That is the ambition of the BAF. We will create a Hasiru train all through the apartments by asking them to grow green, more of green. I have a special request to you, sir. Kindly insist on the more green, less concrete to the builders who come to you for clearance, so that our apartment will have more space. A lot of apartments now, they do not have space for the garden, but however, whatever little they have been doing well. Apart from these initiatives, our concern is also with the senior citizens, who are quite a number in all the apartments. We are implementing a scheme, special program called Vayo Manasa Sanjeevini through Nimans. Nimans have partnered us, and then we have started doing it, and many senior citizens are getting the benefit. I'm just bringing this to your notice that we are not only the apartments and residents, but there are other people also. Now we go next to the ladies and children to concentrate. All the associations celebrated Independence Day with flag hoisting, followed by Triranga Yatra. I had the opportunity to participate in a few of them. The event that we are participating today is to acknowledge the collective determination and the initiative of the residents of the apartments to demonstrate our great concern for the environment. The details of the program will be provided by Mr. Vikram, our General Secretary. We continue to build up relationship with many more resident complexes so that the better tribe in Bangalore will increase. I may conclude my short welcome with our slogan, "Sir, we work for a cause, not for applause." Thank you.
Before I invite Vikram to the stage, I would like to give a token of our appreciation, Rama, to Mr. Vijay Mohan Raj. Thank you, sir. Vikram, may I invite you to the podium, please?
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, sir, for the welcome note. Thank you, Vijay Mohan Raj, sir, for having graced this occasion. When we met you last, what struck me was the fact that you said that you've been a man of the jungles, you've been brought to the city. Sir, unfortunately, the city has become an urban jungle. I think it requires attention, so thanks for being here. I welcome you all for being over here for the finale and award ceremony of the BAF Hasiru Apartment Contest. This is the first edition of the contest that we are doing today. It's an initiative that we consciously took as the next leap of faith in what BAF does. I came to Bangalore in 1996, almost 26 years back. I was 16-year-old that time. I came to do my 11th and 12th standard over here. The population of Bangalore at that point of time, I think, was about 70 lakhs, 7 million. I had a friend in my class who this was in Malleshwaram. I used to go to college in Malleshwaram. So he used to come from Indiranagar. So all of us, Malleshwaram Hudugas and Hudugis, our response to that was, "Oh, you come from Indiranagar," right? So because at that point of time, Indiranagar we felt was very far and out of the city. This is in 96. Today, 2022, I think the population of our city is now at least easily more than double, 1.3 crores plus. And here we are standing in Indiranagar, which is at the center of the city, no longer the outskirts. I'm no longer 16, obviously, but a lot more has changed in 25 years. We've seen the city transform tremendously. It has brought in a lot of opportunity and better lifestyle for a lot of us, right? We represent that. But it has also brought a lot of challenges in terms of infrastructure, and most definitely I think our city has taken a beating. So I think it is important that I think we look at the period ahead in terms of how can we now make our city much more livable, how can we take that consciousness forward. In some sense, I think the growth of the city in the last 15 years has also closely mirrored the growth of our federation as a self-help group. We started in 2013, not many might know that BAF kick-started in 2013 as a small group of about 40-50 apartments who came together to sort of join the cause, common causes. Then there was a little bit of a, they joined together, then everybody went their way, and again in 2016 there was a revival. From a group of about 50 apartments, today we have come a long way. We are now a collective of about 1,150, so 50 to 1,150 RWAs today. That's been a phenomenal growth for us. Between the 1,150 RWAs today, I think there are about 200,000 households of people living in those apartments, many of whom are here as well. We believe that easily there are about 1 million people at least either living or working over there. So it represents a fairly significant part of the city's ecosystem. And we believe that I think this part of that ecosystem, this community can actually move the needle as far as the city is concerned on various aspects, right? Environment and ecology included as well. In the last 2 years, we had a strong opportunity to demonstrate that when we were all down with the COVID pandemic. I think as BAF, we all got the chance to play a role. I'm sure all of you in this audience also played a very definitive role. BAF, we got to play a role in terms of keeping the balance, sensibility and sensitivity of the situation, new situation around us within our members. I think that was something which also motivated the government of Karnataka to actually share a recognition. I'm happy to let you all know that the government of Karnataka actually sent a citation of appreciation with a signed letter and a certificate by the Chief Minister of Karnataka and the Chief Secretary commending the work that has been done. So in some sense, I think that was also a motivator for us to say that, what is the next leap of faith that we can take. And there was general consensus that a large community like that can definitely move the needle and make a dent as far as the ecology and the environmental impact of the city is concerned. It can happen both ways. It can probably swing the positive way, it can swing the negative way as well, right? Just a large number of people. But we would definitely want to put efforts to swing it the positive way, which is why I think the intention and idea of the conceptualization of the Hasiru apartment context was that, right? So the last 1.5 months, our team has put together phenomenal efforts to reach out to multiple apartments. I think we have had about 200 apartments who have come forward to apply and participate in this contest, which we believe is a good number to start with. We only want to go further ahead. But there are 3 dimensions to this campaign that we had kept in mind while conceptualizing this. The first part was, is there an active sense of consciousness towards the environment and ecology of the city that we promote, right? A lot of times I think we end up keeping conversations on environment and ecology as matters of debate, discussion, wisdom, etc., right? But is it percolating into our daily life? It doesn't happen that actively. In this contest, I think I'm proud to say that I think the team designed the evaluation mechanism in a manner that forced people to go back to your apartments, check out your system, how are you using your water, how are you using your energy, how are you managing your waste, what kind of greenery management that you're doing. So they actually had to go back and collect data and information as to how they are managing the system. So I do believe that I think this process has given an opportunity for at least those 200 apartments to go back and look inside, look into their systems, and take a pause and say that, where do we stand, right? I think that is the first step of consciousness and awareness, which I think has started. We believe that it can go further ahead. The second part we believe which can happen is more learning and sharing. We have a phenomenal network of apartments, many of whom are doing wonderful things in various pockets of initiatives, including on environmental and ecological practices. We believe that I think this collective wisdom is easy to share and percolate between people, right? So today, we have had, and we will be having all the winners felicitated over here. We have 9 winners who have been carefully selected. We hope that their stories of success we will create case studies out of it, we'll create video stories out of it and share it to the wider audience so that people can learn and also implement the solution. So I think that scale gives the ability to translate that wisdom into action. And of course, I see a lot of partners, experts over here who will also help in that process. The final dimension which motivated us is the sense of celebration, right? I think in the past few years of our work in BAF, we have sort of noticed that the discussion and debate around environment sometimes becomes a little confrontational. It's about rules versus not rules, who's doing this versus not doing this, residential, commercial, etc. I think we need to go a little past that and say that, you know what, at the end of the day, if we don't take ownership and act, all stakeholders are required, then we will be in trouble 10, 20, 25 years down the line, right? Be it water, energy, whatever you call it. So I think, but it also requires us to enjoy and celebrate this. So today's awards and this ceremony, and I thank our partners, sponsors, etc., who have come on board as well. I think there's good prizes that we are giving, recognition that is happening, press, etc. So I think the intention is also to celebrate what people have done so that it motivates others, and of course to collaborate with partners going forward to do more things. So many people are there. I can see, I think Shreya from Etri is over here. WRI couldn't be part of it. Friends from Credai over here. I think Bhaskar and Suhail and Anil are here, were here, etc. So we are lining up to do a lot of collaborative work with other partners as well, who bring in the expertise and the ability to implement, whereas our own community can then also partner and participate in implementing those solutions. So developing that consciousness and learning and sharing and celebrating and collaborating are the fundamental sort of dimensions in which this was conceptualized. So I will not take any more time of yours. There's an evening of celebration awards. There's some invigorating discussions today. Please enjoy the evening. I will leave you with my favorite sort of quote, anonymous. I don't know who said that. I mean, you might be not alive tomorrow, so do things today. But you might also be alive tomorrow, so do it well. So towards environmental consciousness, let us have the sense of agility to do it fast, but at the same sense, let us have the sense of purpose and responsibility to do it well. Thank you very much. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Vikram, for your thoughts on the BAF contest, and thank you, President Sir, for welcoming everybody. I would like to now take some time and introduce our guest, Sri Vijay Mohan Raj. He is an IFS officer, Principal Secretary to the Government of Karnataka in the Department of Environment and Ecology and Forests. Known as VMR amongst wildlife enthusiasts, has previously been the Chief Conservator of Forests. He is published author, visual storyteller, and a nature conservation photographer. He has discovered the largest population of lion-tailed macaques in the world in the forests of Sirsi, Honavar. He has won many national awards for nature photography. He has initiated smart technology into the working of the Karnataka Forests Department with KADU, a smart boundary system, and Arbor. These are acronyms, a tree tag to monitor growth of trees in farmers' lands. He is one of the directors of Wild Karnataka, a documentary on which biodiversity of Karnataka, which was released in 2019, and I had the pleasure of meeting him in his office a few weeks ago. Thank you, sir. Would you like to address this group, sir?
Good evening, all. Sorry, I apologize. I reached late. My Google showed me 22, but actually landed in 44. I think Bangalore stays true to its name as far as traffic is concerned. Lekin weather acha hai. So the best part of being in Bangalore, I literally spent 27 years in the Western Ghats. I studied there, literally walked the length and breadth of the 372 kilometers of the ridgeline of the Western Ghats. So suddenly I was transported to Bangalore, and incidentally I spent 10 years of living in an apartment in Bangalore this August, and it means sporadically with my wife and kid being here. But let me tell you, it's been a beautiful journey. The best part of being Bangalore is itself great because it's got a great appetite to do environmental conservation. Everything you throw at Bangaloreans, they simply lap it up, and they really respond in a way of so much enthusiasm, of contributing and pushing things forward. This is something which I feel very proud, and I call myself a Bangalorean. It's really nice to be in Bangalore. Everybody loves to be there. And very interestingly, what I really found, the best part is that I was also outside, so I could also have an outsider look at what Bangaloreans do. And interestingly, BAF, the moment they came to me, I said I was very happy for two reasons. One is I could share what I really think as an outsider, the Bangalore apartment people can do, and how we can actually shape and change the public discourse and the public view on what we really think are problems of Bangalore. I think the most important point which I really understood when Bangalore came was Bangalore had this AC culture. Since there were some acronyms thrown in, AC culture means apartment living and cubicle working for me. So the first thing people do is that you get this beautiful Friday and you would like to simply get out of Bangalore. Because Bangalore people believe that anything beyond 4 hours from Bangalore is not a place worth traveling, because you still have to come back and work on a Monday. So that is something which I found out again. But very interestingly, what we really felt is that the apartment conglomerate, which my friend Vikram has been a part of and all of you have been a part of, is actually something which is actually driving a lot of things forward. Although you may not know it, but the kind of cosmopolitan nature it has, the kind of celebrations we have, the kind of bringing up of all the festivals we do, that is something which has really thrown a totally new insight onto this city. I've been into this city, my mom is from this city, long back when I used to live in a bungalow with my mom's relatives in a bungalow of 170 feet by 200 feet, where those big long cars were being parked. And those lovely gardens which had those beautiful flowers, that's become a rarity. We lost most of it. Old Bangaloreans will remember. Now it's only the flower show which really shows what Bangalore is. That apart. But then let me tell you very frankly that how we can actually transform. I notice a lot of small things which really happen, and how we can really bring about, especially this Bangalore Apartment Federation. I personally feel there are 2-3 strong points with the apartment people, is that they're extremely upwardly mobile. People would simply traverse their journey of life, not just in a career perspective, even in the mindset perspective. The moment you attain a certain stage, you want to give back to society in a bigger way and in a very positive way. That is something which I've seen very often. So what really happens is that when we think Bangalore, let me tell you very frankly that Bangalore is important, but at the same time the environment around us is extremely important. We get an extreme sense of happiness and environmental love the moment World Environment Day comes. We take this opportunity, go plant trees, take a photo opportunity, post a selfie, probably put it on our Instagram stories, and then forget what's really happened. But how do you really know that the Forest Department of Karnataka tracks 1 crore seedlings as on today, where financial incentives are given to the farmers who grow trees on their land? All we can do is that we monitor these trees for 3 years. If the Bangalore Apartment Federation can say that we can really take up this program, I feel every Bangalorean living in an apartment has a guilt, and I call it the tree guilt. I'm not doing much of planting trees because I really don't have space. So I would really urge upon the AF to really look upon, cash in on this tree guilt and go and support a farmer. And I believe that all you need to do is give him a small financial incentive now with these days of technology, where you can actually see a farmer who's growing the trees on the cloud, where it's just pushed onto the cloud and you can directly do a direct benefit transfer system to him. This would make a very simple token contribution of 100 rupees per plant. He would be happily growing those plants. And imagine a farmer growing 1,000 trees, you would actually encash ₹1,00,000 per year for the first 6 years. That is something which is really contributing to the environment. That is the reason why I would say that look beyond Bangalore and look around us. The second most important point which I would really like to take is we become very emotional when it comes to trees. I would say that we believe that a city is growing, developing, and how many trees? My satellite estimate shows there are 14,30,000 trees in Bangalore. But I would like to go one step forward and tag every tree We developed this tech called RBuy, where you can actually put your cell phone on it, small tag which you're going to develop and put it on the tree, where you can know that how much oxygen this tree generates, what is this tree uses, and where is it done. And if you map the whole trees of Bangalore, it would be nice somebody can actually walk the heritage trees of Bangalore. You can say, today I want to walk the trees which Kempegowda planted in those days. So those are something which could actually come out of this whole exercise. That is something which I would really urge upon. And now that the serious matters, but very interestingly, Bangalore taught me a few other things. I'm basically a guy who worked in tiger reserves for a long time, almost 4 tiger reserves. So my only job was to watch where I'm walking and whether there's an elephant around the corner, whether there's a tiger there. These were the issues which are there. Suddenly, my whole walking in Bangalore got restricted to 2 things. Going up my floor and coming down, which is in the 8th floor, and then getting my car and getting to office. Then I said that, okay, let me see what natural science I can pick up from this lift. The first thing I could sense was that I could know when my neighbor walked his dog because the dog left a possible stink in the lift. And I could also know when the maid on the next opposite floor came in because the jasmine flower was still lingering on after she left the lift. So these are small things, like these are the nuances which, being in an apartment, you say it's very boring. Just keep your eyes open, you'll get it amazing. So these are things which I would love to say. But let me tell you a few incidences which we really put up on. For the whole of Karnataka, we run a crowdsourced blog on nature called jlrexplore.com. It's been running for 9 years now. It's a single point of contact where entire stories of nature are actually crowdsourced and put so that anybody can learn, anybody who's interested can actually look upon nature and see that. I would urge BAF to actually put a platform of crowdsourced stories on environmental conservation, something on the lines of JLR Explore, where you tell a story, because attention spans are very small. Anything above 9 seconds, they don't hold our interest. So we would suggest that bring all those things, put it on a common platform so that youngsters get a trigger. Some guy who's thinking of a startup can actually get his mind going on. And surprisingly, now that I'm in the business of clearing buildings, clear environmental clearances, we make sure that there's this EV charging made mandatory, but we know the transition is small and slow. We said we'll do that. But for me, the long-term gain would be is that we now are in a development paradigm where we call the floor area ratio. How many floors the area can hold. That is very sad. I would like to shift the paradigm and talk about carbon neutral neighborhoods. That is something we'll really look at. I don't mind the building being as tall as it can be, but as long as it can neutralize itself, the carbon impact of being there. If you could have smart green technology, smart infrastructure, where you can actually really offset your presence, that's fine. Because I have a crazy example that most of the time I used to see senior officers, we used to allow a bunch of tourists into the jungle, and they used to make don't allow them in the jungle, they're very noisy, they make all sorts of things. I said, sir, these 20 people who are aware of nature would have a much lesser imprint than 2 guys drunk in the forest. So this is something, an analogy we need to keep it. The buildings need to be really like those aware. Whenever we do a footprint, we need to be careful whether we use the material from where. And there are a lot of stuff available online. These are the few things which actually bother me. Now coming to the main issue is that the word waste itself looks very detrimental and very denigrating. I would suggest that we look this as something which will leave a legacy of how we can really bring about a better utilization. And as Vikram said that there's been a good beginning, I still see segregation is happening. But then how are we consuming within ourselves? That is something which we really need to look at. We do talk about it, but when it actually comes to doing things, we are still far, far away. So those are one thing. But as a society, I really found there are a few other issues which the BF also needs to address, because I think it's a very simple forum, nothing formal about this whole location, it's just casual, so I'm sharing my thoughts. Most of us live in this isolated oasis around our apartments where we have. And if you really can go out and reach out to the neighborhood where there's a local store, because we're so heavily app-based, even for a small bunch of coriander, we would still insist on an app delivering us to our door. The footprint is so long, and we really miss a connect with our neighborhoods. I really don't know who's the next guy who's running a shop as well. So these are some things. Take a small time out, go out at least 200 meters within the radius of your apartment, meet those local shopkeepers, try to do business with them, because these conglomerates and these aggregators finally make money, but at the cost of somebody else. So this is something Bangalore has always been famous, and this thing, I would suggest that try to reach out, bring in small clusters of changes within that, And we are all there to help you. And as government, let me tell you very frankly, government is very responsive. We know their difficulties. But at the same time, can you believe a city which will really grow, double its size, something, every 10 years it grows at a rate of 28. That's the largest in Asia. How can we even manage? So many Bangalores we had to create, because I was in all the time in Western Ghats. Every weekend, majority of the Bangalore was there. Can you believe it used to be an 18-kilometer long road jams in Chikmagalur, and I had to literally, many of them very selfie conscious guys ending up in waterfalls where we had to rescue them. So I think it's a very big challenge of being here in Bangalore. Bangalore has got its great vibe of really pushing things forward. I would suggest that this forum needs to grow much bigger, and I would suggest that we would have a very good dialogue, and I would really say that if we can really think of how we can really move forward, and we would be happy, and we do have some things in mind. And the very good thing is, having worked in the forest department in the CSR segment for over 10 years, we got substantial contributions from the CSR this thing. I think this is something where most of you are in corporates. You could really think about tying up with corporates and having a say in the CSR program about pushing for environment, because environment is something which affects everybody. Let me narrate a very, very, very interesting incident which my friend shared with me 3 days back. He just went to Norway and came back. He went to photograph polar bears. And I believe the ice is melting very fast. Apart from the glaciers, there used to be those big blocks of sea ice which used to be for kilometers, and before they had a very short summer, so then the winter would come back, so the sea ice would again thaw, and then this year the sea is actually gone down much faster, and these big large chunks of ice have now become small remnants. And on that he saw a mother polar bear with 2 cubs, and I believe it had less than 2 square kilometer area left, and it was drifted nearly 270 kilometers from the nearest large chunk of ice. The boat person said that it would be very disturbing for you to go and see this mother and cubs, because they are doomed. The day the last chunk of ice goes down, this mother and her cubs will never go back to any land mass at all. So we think about buying Bangalore is there, but also keep a perspective of what's happening in the world, especially in climate change. What we do here also matters to the world. And let's make our effort so that we can really connect to these things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Lovely takeaways in terms of carbon neutrality, and also looking at tree census and trying to see what is the volume of oxygen that we can get from different places. I think we will look to work with you on this. All right, so next up is with more and more citizens preferring to move into apartments, it has been clear to BAF that the flat dwellers can contribute a lot to the sustainability and retaining a high green coefficient in an urban setting like Bengaluru. Apartments could range from as small as 12 units to upwards of 3,000 units. Some of them may be more than 2 decades old, some of them may be relatively new. So the BAF Governing Council in Track 1 huddled together on what is the best way to evaluate this BAF Hasiru contest. Okay. So we'd like you to know what went behind this, and to explain how this has been working, I would like to invite Mr. Luke Dhanraj, the Vice President of the Governing Council Track 1, to help us understand this process of evaluation. Luke.
Dignitaries on and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, I have pleasure in explaining to you what Pradeep just now mentioned. First of all, let me show you what is this contest about. It's a contest for all apartments, layout, villa complexes in Greater Bengaluru. BAF membership not considered. Irrespective of whether member or not member, this has been open to everybody. Our intention was to identify the most nature environment-friendly complexes and reward them. Why did we embark upon that kind of an activity? You would appreciate BAF is a very, very responsible organization, conscious of the environment and conscious of helping our members to perform well. Only actions practical for MCs to implement inside the complex have been considered in this contest. Competition not for the MC, but for the community as a whole, right from its inception, performed by all members of the community, including MCs across the time. About 50 parameters were identified and were carefully assessed by a methodology that I'll explain to you. Simple questions warranting yes or no responses mostly were framed around these 50 parameters. Contest closed on July 30th with about 191 entries received. The factors impacting environment, if you see on the heading, the impacts, and on the y-axis, if you see action in complex, what it impacts. There are three major aspects. One is the air, two, soil and groundwater. They are inextricably close together. What affects the soil affects the water, and vice versa. Then you have aesthetics. So I would like to start from the bottom. The bottom is not really an influenceable aspect directly, it's an indicator. It's a very important indicator. If you have beehives in your complex, it shows that the environment in your complex is very good. Beehives are very choosy, they are very sensitive. Unless the environment there is very, very comfortable for them, they wouldn't come and build their beehives there. Then let us see, as far as air quality is concerned, one of the most important aspects is generation of or liberation of oxygen. Friends, oxygen cannot be produced. It's not an industrial product. It's something God has blessed us with, and it is the trees and plants that segregate oxygen, that separate oxygen from carbon dioxide and liberate to the atmosphere for us to live on. Then we have general quality of air, which gets influenced by solar power generation, making use of EVs, using LED. By all these, if we can reduce the consumption of electricity that we buy from BESCOM, it is going to help us in a very big way. What we buy from BESCOM is energy produced by several power plants, many of them thermal plants and many of them hydel plants also. I don't have to explain to you in great detail why energy produced from thermal plants is less desirable and why hydroelectric power plants, their reservoirs cause huge damage to us. Just like our chief guest mentioned, the Western Ghats is a very big wealth for us. But if we build dams and reservoirs there, we are losing them in a very big way. Now, all these which I have explained to you so far, they have ramifications not only inside the complex, but also the complex and beyond Bengaluru and much beyond Bengaluru itself. Now let us see one more aspect under air, not using chemical pesticides or fogging. Although this has limited influence in the complex itself and in Bengaluru, this is a very important enemy to mankind. Let us see what impacts the soil and groundwater. I won't call it waste. I will call it in tune with what Mr. Vijay Mohan Raj mentioned. I will say rejects. Now rejects need to be segregated right in every home. And if we do that, we are taking one baby step forward towards better things as far as the environment is concerned. Not using single-use plastics, of which BAF has been speaking quite a lot in the recent times, not only in the recent times, but also since 2016 when this was required by the government. In situ reject composting, green as well as, kitchen as well as garden waste, garden reject composting. Using composted manure in garden gives you a very big advantage. We live in tune with the nature. Not using chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers is an enemy to environment. Rainwater harvesting, direct use for drinking as well as for recharging into the ground. This will reduce our need for water from elsewhere and will protect also our water table, our groundwater. Frugal use of water, an additional step in the same direction. Reuse of STP water, an even more advanced step towards better environment. So much about soil and groundwater protection. Let us look at the aesthetics. Although it takes a very small place in total environment, cleanliness and flowers around you provide you better aesthetics. Impact of each factor. As I explained to you, each factor can impact our life in a very big way. The environment. Environment inside complex, overall Bangalore and beyond, each with its own degree of impact. Award therefore to the awardees today will not be on the basis of singular considerations of solar power generation or EV charger or whatever it is. They are on an overall consideration basis with appropriate weighted evaluation. For evaluating the complexes, the jurors have followed a two-step process. Number one, details provided by the complexes were evaluated and shortlisted. Jurors also inspected to appreciate the actual work carried out by them, and then awards decided. The methodology followed by the jurors, there were three categories of complexes that we considered: up to 100 units small, 100 to 300 units medium, and above 301 and above large complexes. Jurors decided and devised an elaborate weighted evaluation algorithm. Complexes awarded points on the basis of this algorithm. What I would like to say is, it is not that the aspects that were listed earlier were provided 1 point each. On the basis of their weightage, more points or less points were provided, so that we are able to arrive at the real, nearly the real, the best practical within the ambit of man's consideration, to arrive at what is the impact of these aspects. Small complexes exempted by the Honorable NGT and KSPCB were considered, they are not required to have STP. So they were not at a disadvantage compared to the others. Our large complexes that were established long before 2006 were also not required to have STP, so appropriate considerations were provided. We also provided for lack of gardening spaces inside small complexes. Complexes shortlisted on the basis of these points and thus got them. Therefore, the complexes did not really depend on us. They got themselves shortlisted by their own activity inside their complexes. Then we had an inspection, the second step. Jurors formed 3 teams. We contacted the complexes, took appointment, and visited them. During inspection, discussions were held to obtain more details of what they had provided for in the questionnaire. And we also did a walk around in their complex to understand the actual activities performed by them. Post-inspection, the algorithm was revisited and winners determined on the basis of their actual performance. So thank you friends. That's about it.
Thank you very much, Luke. I think that was very important because out of 191 apartments which participated, so many have put in various types of efforts. So it's a good thing for all of them to know how we have gone about it. So before we go into the actual announcement of the awards, I would like to take between 5 and 8 minutes to share something that BAF did in March of 2022. In commemoration of World Water Day, BAF had announced a painting contest and a photography contest. The theme of these contests were water conservation. We had a good participation by apartment dwellers in the painting competition. Children as young as 5 and above had sent in their entries. It's amazing to see how much of an understanding they have in these very important and consequential aspects of water conservation. So I'll share with you some of the criteria which were used for evaluating these. The judges evaluated the paintings and the photographs on aesthetics, conceptual qualities, composition, and neatness. I will now start announcing the name of the painting competition winners, and may I request Vijay sir to give away the prizes as they come in. So the second runner-up for this painting competition is little Anvit Kondareddy. Anvit is here. So please come. Please come. Every aspect has been taken care of. Look at the painting behind him. Thank you, Anvit. And then the first runner-up is Avani Kiran Kumar, another young one with an amazing understanding of this. Avani, please come. Round of applause, please. Thank you, Avni. And now the winner of the painting contest is Devangshi Singh. A wonderful sketch, high in aesthetics without losing conceptual clarity. Kudos, Devangshi. Please come. Thank you very much. There were many more who deserved, and all of them have been sent the participation certificates. Thank you, parents, for supporting the children, and thank you for all the participants. We now move to the photography competition. Participants to the photography competitions with the same theme have been adults. There were about 17 participants in this competition, and I will now call to the stage the winners. The second runner-up for the World Water Day Photography Competition is Mr. K.C. Veeraraghavan. KCV. He is a resident of Principal Corner, and his photograph is very practical. If you see the reuse of RO water, I think many of you will recall this question in our questionnaire. How do you reuse the water? Thank you, KCV. And the first runner-up for the photography competition is Miss Lalitamba. She's a resident of Akriti Silver Line, and a photo collage speaks of water usage from bulk consumers through the use of aerators. Congratulations, Lalita. And the winner of the photography competition is Advik K. Advik. Who's bringing who? The judges were unilateral in awarding this picture the winning award. Thank you very much. Please be seated, sir. Thank you. We now turn our attention to the BAF Hasiru competition. As mentioned by Vikram, the competition is to celebrate the efforts of the various apartments who have adopted sustainable living methods. BAF has over 103 apartments in the 100 and less than that capacity. Generally, they appear to be disadvantaged in space and facilities, but seeing the effort and enthusiasm, I think size doesn't matter. When it comes to sustainable living, it just does not matter. The judges were thrilled to see the efforts of all the participants and winners. So I once again request Vijay Mohan Raj sir to do the honors by handing over the awards. So this is for the apartments which are 100 and less. The winner of the third prize in this category is the management committee of Shobha Marvellas. The MC of Shobha Marvella, please. Rainwater harvesting, water metering, and focus on green. Their effort is to be celebrated. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. The winner of the second prize in this category are the MC of Sundale Apartments. Located centrally in Osborne Street, Ulsur. It's an absolutely green apartment and anyone would be very happy to have a home here. Just 26 units, For an apartment with 26 units, they have a rooftop solar plant and water metering facilities, as you would have seen in the video. I've been there, and very good composting facilities too. Congratulations to the MC of. Yeah. So in addition to the plaque, they get a cash prize of 30,000 rupees. Congratulations, congratulations, ma'am. Thank you. And the clear winner in the less than 100 apartment category is TZ Homes. I've been there and I've seen all these facilities. I can say that this is an apartment built ground up on the green concept. They have taken sewage treatment plant to a much higher level. In fact, the water is potable. Absolutely. So BAF is very proud of you. Thank you for participating. They got a gift check of 50,000 rupees. Thank you, sir, for handing over the awards. Vikram, may I request you to escort the guests down? We now have a panel discussion. The first panel discussion is about ecology and environment. We have, in fact, before we go into that, I would like to invite Bolt and MyGate to do a quick. Are we on? Bolt and MyGate? Yes. I'll ask Bolt to go first and MyGate to follow. If you can manage in about 90 seconds, that will be nice.
Yeah.
You want to?
Thanks, BAF, for the opportunity. It's been a year since we started the EV charging. The EV charging in apartments. We have done installations in about 240 odd apartments in Bangalore. Right? So I'm here not as a representative of Bolt, but just as a fellow member of one of the apartments. Just wanted to clear some myths about EV charging. Right? So one of the things which you have realized over the last, I think our team must have met close to 1,000 odd apartment societies, and a lot of questions keep getting asked on. So we thought we'll clear some of it for all of us, right? One of the things is on the entire debate of is our EVs greener, right? Are EVs better than ICE vehicles? But I think there's a lot of research outside, and while there's a lot of debate on the power source, that it's still thermal, but just to tell some facts, in India almost 1/3 of power is already renewable. In states like Karnataka, it's much higher. And if you do a direct comparison with ICE and EVs are 64% lesser vehicular emissions over the vehicle's the life cycle, right? So second is about EV charging being very expensive. It's a myth again. A lot of apartments today invest a lot of money in making those fancy looking fast chargers. It is not required. World across, 80% of Teslas are home charged on your normal AC sockets. So that's another perception which people have, which doesn't allow them to invest on EV charging facilities. It can start with a simple smart socket, which doesn't cost a lot of money, right? And just providing some convenience on the chargings. Another thing about EV charging, which a lot of apartments today debate is on, is the time, are we ready for EV charging yet, right? So, think of it like this, right? So when we had Principal Secretary Sir speaking about the impact which we typically do. So what as MC members and as people in the apartments, so we are standing between residents adopting to EVs. So every time a resident sees an EV charging facility, their inclination to buy an EV goes up. We have seen in apartment after apartment, where after installing a few chargers, there are residents who are more keen now that they have taken care, okay, this is charging facility available. So you should proactively install this. So there's no chicken and egg, right? I think we all have to make these efforts and make some charging facility available. It doesn't have to be chargers. It can be some common normal sockets which can figure out how do you do that. Another, I'll just conclude without taking much time, is about how do you need a BESCOM permission? So absolutely not. You can use your existing commercial connections which you have for EV charging, right? And you don't need any permissions from BESCOM. There's no NOC required. It has been clarified. So if you want to know more about EV charging, we have made a white paper along with MyGate. You can refer to that and contact Bolt just in case if you want to understand this more. Thanks.
Thank you. That would be really important because there's still a lot of concern with apartments thinking that there is a need.
बाबू इलेक्ट्रिक है इधर तो चार्ज किया और किधर किधर करेगा
Over 90 seconds.
इधर भी इधर भी इधर भी इधर भी
All right, thank you. I'll now invite MyGate to quickly share their message. MyGate, please.
Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Sanjeev from MyGate. So, can we present that? Yeah. All right. So, let me tell you, like we founded, this company was founded in 2016, and then we were able to make a circle of trust of almost, 25,000 plus societies. Today, we stand at a portfolio of 3 million plus homes. And obviously, you can see we are 3,000 plus societies in Bangalore. Now, again, presenting a survey which we are very proud of, which says that MyGate has 80 to 82% market share right now in the market. Now, after this, we thought, we took a step back, and in 2019, we realized that not just the gate transaction is important, but there is enterprise resource planning for all the societies. And you will also agree to that. And today we are very proud to inform you that we are managing 2,500 crore transactions for maintenance happening on MyGate. And then we have 12 million invoices generated, 12 million amenities booking, and 700 million deliveries happening on MyGate, and some more details are there. Now with this, obviously, we thought that the major problem for societies I would rather say that additional thing which we could have done for the societies was revenue generation. So we have generated 10 CR of business for societies. Now this is a pure revenue generation platform which is now on MyGate, and almost I believe many of the societies are also enjoying these benefits, and we are generating revenue month by month. With this, we also want to announce that we have started home services as a new platform, and in this home services we are taking care of all curated offers for you. We are also taking care of expert technician. Now, so we had a vision to make sure that we are end-to-end providing all the services on one single application for community. And we are all set and geared up for the future now. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, MyGate. I have also used their services and found it very good. Thank you very much. So we'll now move to the panel discussion. We have this panel which will discuss on ecology, environment, and various green technologies, for which I invite on stage the moderator of this program, Meera from Citizen Matters. She's the editor-in-chief. Meera, please come. And the
Yeah, please come.
Thank you. I would like to invite on stage Mr. Sohail Rahman, CEO and Managing Director of Co-Evolve Estate, governing body member of CREDAI. Please come, sir. I'd also like to invite Shreya Nath, Lead Green Cities Initiative, Center for Social and Environmental Innovation, A3. Welcome, ma'am. And Ajay Raghavan, Chief Curator, Initiative for Climate Action. May I invite Manoj Nair, Director of Enphase India. Manoj, please. And last but not the least, Vikram Rai, General Secretary of BAF. Vikram, please come on.
Thank you to all panelists, and thank you everybody. Good afternoon, almost good evening, and welcome to this panel discussion on Bangalore's environment. So we'll start with kind of the big picture, understanding Bangalore's environment and our role in it, and then we'll talk about, as apartment dwellers, what is our responsibility and what else we could do. Like Vikram said, there are like 1 to 2 million residents that this community represents, and that's a pretty significant chunk. Right? And if this community can get together and actually get to the next level, is going to be a huge impact in improving the city's environment, etc. So let me get going, and just to kind of give context, and obviously the way the city has grown has had huge implication on how the city's environment has been. I mean, obviously everybody talks about, oh, it was once a garden city, now it's a traffic city and all that, but we also see a lot of these interesting initiatives and positive action, things changing as well. The question is it like one step forward and 2 steps backwards in terms of change, or is there actually like, things can move towards and can we contribute? It's not just about promising something in, at IPCC saying, oh, we'll commit to so much, but on the ground, what are we really doing? So with that, let me get going. And just to give kind of context, just some numbers. I like to always start with some numbers. So the city's urban cover has increased. 350% in the last 25 years. And while the green areas have shrunk from 17% to less than 6%, that's like fairly like notable, right? And we all know this. We've kind of seen how there's much more concretization in the city, especially in the peripheral areas. There was once, if you look at the old map, you'll see this nice green belt around the city. Now it's like completely gone. If you go down any of the arterial roads, Sarjapur Road, Old Madras Road, none of the trees are remaining. And we have like 1 tree for every 7 persons, while WHO recommends 1 per person. And we have, in terms of green space, we have just 2 square meters per capita, whereas 9 square meters is recommended, and so on and so forth. So if you really look at it, yes, it's not in a great shape. And if you're living in a nice apartment with a lot of greenery around, maybe it's not so visible, but when you go out and you're stuck in traffic, it is quite noticeable, right? So my first question is to Sohail. Actually, all said and done, high-rises have a significant impact on the environment, right? And this is dense housing, and this is large-scale development, and we're looking at land use and construction that is designed to be more than what the carrying capacity of the neighborhood can be. Right? And we're doing it for multiple reasons, economics, and there is a large population to be supported. It's understandable, but what you see is the builder's responsibility in ensuring, I mean, the primary interest is obviously you're doing your dharma, you're building houses for people. But from an environmental perspective, what is the responsibility that you see, and how do you make that happen?
Thank you, BA, for giving us this opportunity to be on this panel. So primarily what I would say is that dense housing is a necessity in an urban context, just because land is a finite entity and it's not increasing. But the urban population is expected to double by about 2050. And it's very important to grow vertically rather than horizontally to conserve that much of land. Now, as Meera rightly pointed out, that the green cover is going away. And one of the factors is availability of low FSI to go vertically. So it's important that the housing is limited to smaller footprints for its own benefits. While there are challenges with dense housing in terms of resource planning, I think what builders' responsibility is to, in a Bangalore context, is to ensure there are a lot of parameters in terms of water that gets covered. And unfortunately, the city is not doing it. The government is not doing too much. It's made the builder responsible for providing water sources. and if you saw, there was an article last week that the groundwater table is running dry, and the BWS is not supplying water either. So it's a catch-22 situation that who's going to give water. So there is plenty of solutions available, but there are a lot of policies not yet in place to utilize groundwater, reuse water from STP and stuff. So I would say the responsibility of the builder would be to ensure that we set a green path for the community to follow. Retrofitting is not always easy, as a lot of you would have understood by now. It's not easy to retrofit things. So if there is a blueprint given by the builder in the right direction, then communities can take it forward.
So if you can just build on that, how do you ensure that builders do that? What is the incentive that you need as an individual like developer, and what would you like from the government?
So definitely to build a green building, it's anywhere between 5 to 10% more expensive than a regular building, depending on the complexity that you want to achieve. And to make it a mass market product, it definitely has to hit the sub 1 crore category, for which we need a lot of incentives from the government. And higher FSI is one thing. But more than incentivizing the government, the challenge I see, I'm a green developer, the challenge I see is that I don't have buyers who's asking for such a product. So there is no incentives to the buyer itself to buy such a product. So I would say, apart from the builder having a benefit, the home buyer should be incentivized with probably a lower home loan rate, lower property taxes, lower electricity bills if you are living in a green building. That would probably spur the green building movement more than the builders being incentivized, because the customer has to ask for it. Right now, there's no demand from the customer for a green building. That's what we see in the market. And probably 5% of my customers are bought into my product because it's green. But 95 is, yes, the feature is there, so chalta hai. So I would say incentivize the consumer rather than the builder.
Okay, you talked about, the cost of a green building is higher, 5 to 10% higher than a normal thing. And to some extent, I understand. For example, anybody who's tried to convince through an AGM, whether it's your MC or in the general body meeting, trying to convince them to install solar, saying, oh, the ROI is like 5 to 7 years, or using treated water, dual plumbing. Each of these is hard to do, and instead of spending in the beginning, we're all retrofitting. But people definitely, are, conscious about spending that 1 lakh extra, whereas you're talking about these are things that are going to last for the next 20, 30, 40 years, right? So when you're spending like literally lakhs and crores, definitely there is this thing, oh, do I need to spend 50K more? Do I need to spend 1 lakh more on a green building? To that extent, I understand. And I'll come back to this whole thing about resources and the water availability. That definitely is a huge issue, given that I think pretty much everybody is sort of dependent on tanker water, especially if your apartment is one of the peripheral areas, right? Let me just go to Shreya. In the last decade, definitely environment has been much more in the public discourse, right? It's not just, unlike other cities, definitely Bangalore is much more conscious that way. We're talking about, the greenery going down. We're talking about tree cutting. We're talking about, water levels. All of it, there's much more consciousness now. But if you really look at numbers, what kind of, you hear all the statement of intent saying, okay, we're going to do this. Bangalore is going to have a climate action plan. Everything is there in intent, but when you look at metrics, really look at whether you look at the air quality or the water table or the potability, in every sense, we're not really seeing an improvement, right? Do you think it's an issue of policy, or is it about implementation? Is it about what we are actually, willing to commit as citizens? Where do you think the gap is?
So I think it's at the intersection of all three things. So I think it's policy, it's like Suhail said, it's the market, and then it's also the community that have to come together. Because if there's a demand for an environmentally conscious way of developing the city, it will evolve much quicker, both in terms of policy and also in terms of the market. But in terms of the city itself, I think the most important thing when it comes to urban design is the urban form. So that's the way our buildings are laid out, the spaces between them, how high or low they are. And there's actually a lot of studies that have shown that it's better to have a mid-rise, high-density city than a high-rise, high-density city. Because when you have a high-rise, high-density city, which is what you see in a lot of cities like New York or Mumbai, you assume you're actually achieving larger numbers, but you're not. So if you compare Paris to New York, people might think that New York is more dense, but it's actually Paris that's more dense in the historical district. So if you consistently have buildings which are approximately around above 4 floors to around 10 floors, a lot of urban planners have consensus that that's the happy medium. And there was a study that was done by the University of Edinburgh that showed basically different configurations of buildings. And I think we really need to start thinking about embodied energy. It makes me really happy to see the amount of effort that people are putting into operational energy. But it's the tip of the iceberg. If you look at what's really consuming resources when it comes to our buildings, it's actually, yes, energy use once a building is operational for things like air conditioning is massive, but the greenhouse gas emissions from cement alone account around 30 to 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The taller you go, think of a building like a tree. The taller you go, the deeper the roots. So you have to have more and more cement in your foundation. So if we actually restrict the building heights to a certain area, and it becomes very hard because it has to make economic sense to builders. So we need to think of new ways of accounting for things like open space, which are in our bylaws. It just says you have 30% of open space. That open space could be an interconnected network of roof gardens. There are many innovative architecture projects from all over the world that we can draw from. And there are also other things that we don't account for. Like, for example, the tree canopy doesn't go beyond a certain height. Trees provide a lot of shade. So beyond just doing, I've studied environmental modeling, so I know that when you actually do simulations to see how much light is coming into a building, your overhangs need to be somewhere like 3 meters if they're actually not allowing that amount of daylight to come in. On average, we have 1.2 meters in our city. So you are going to get a lot of internal heat gains just from sun, especially if the higher and higher you go. So we really need to think about, in a city like Bangalore, rather than, which has already grown, and you can see that that has so much complexity even with the buildings itself, but then also about the things that the buildings need to sort of function, which is your sewage network, your electricity network. We need to encourage mixed-use development. I can't tell you how many of my friends are disgruntled going to office, from Indranagar to Whitefield, and literally some of them just have quit and become farmers.
15-minute cities.
Yes.
Sorry. So are you advocating 15-minute cities?
Yeah, I'm advocating walkable cities, exactly. And if you just have work environments which are within the cities, within walking distance, that itself cuts down a huge amount of things. And there's another key reason which we don't really think about, which is that the grid doesn't get completely overloaded. Because if you think about why we have power cuts, it's not that we don't have enough power transmission, but we have peak power loads. Everyone's at home in the morning, then they go to work, and then everyone comes back to work, comes back home after work. So then there are those peak times where the power actually goes off. Similarly with sewage treatment. You don't need to have huge sewage treatment plants. Supposing you have a mixed-use development, people are in the office during the day, and then it's in the same area. So I can say that for a city like Bangalore, which has already built out its networks in the heart of the city, and it's still expanding on the periphery, the things like decentralized sewage treatment have a lot of opportunities. So Suhail was just mentioning, that the builders are struggling to get water, and of course we need new housing. I was surprised to learn that Bangalore is the fastest growing city in the world. A World Economic Forum just released a study with Oxford showing that we have a growth rate, a year-on-year growth rate of about 8.6%. So we need to account for the fact that more and more people are going to come to Bangalore, and there is going to be more and more need for housing. But we can use wastewater for this. We just need to figure out what are the right standards, what are the right protocols. A country like Israel, which is really has access to a lot of resources, the way that they actually reuse wastewater is they wear personal protective equipment. They say, we're not going to spend a whole lot of money and resources treating it to the same quality that Singapore does. Not all water needs to be potable, but we'll take precautions. So for things like earthwork excavation, things like curing the slabs, you do need to have standards in place. You do need to make sure that there are certain parameters like your sulfates and your chlorides, etc., which are within check. But then you don't want to rule out the option of using it at all. And I will say that I feel like the government is pushing towards this. There was a mandate in 2020 released by the BWSSB that's pushing towards this, but a level of practicality needs to be sort of woven into that mandate now. So it becomes easy for builders like Suhail, who I personally know is very keen to do it, but it has to be something that's feasible so that he's not going to lose new home buyers, because people do have negative perceptions about these things. Yeah.
Right. So you've kind of given a lot of interesting concepts. These are critical issues. You're talking about walkable cities. You're talking about carrying capacity. You're talking about the optimum sort of high-rise height and so on. To some extent, I think being in MCs, many of us would have kind of now come across, because we've been following all these urban issues much more keenly. But how do you kind of translate it to ensure that, how do we reach out and ensure home buyers, which are the consumers, which are like really lay people, they're just, for them, it's a home, something they've looked forward to, they've, saved up for. How do you translate it into those decisions are also kind of based on these ideas?
So there are home buyers with different priorities. I think if you talk to different green environmental builders, each one of them tells a different story. Some people buy homes because of a brand name associated with a particular builder. But I think the one thing that green buildings can do is that they really reduce your operational costs. They increase the quality of life. And unfortunately, it's hard sometimes to quantify that in traditional metrics, but it's not that hard to actually do. In fact, I am an architect myself, so I've worked on projects in London, and they have a 5-step RBuy process. And if you actually have a green building, they show you what your cost savings are in terms of your, in terms of your heating bill, because they do analysis for the building to show you how much you would actually reduce the need for heating or cooling in your building. They would show you how much the bill reduction is in terms of water usage. So money speaks. We can't deny that. Everyone is concerned about it. So I would say the starting point for actually making a change in terms of how you get new home buyers on board is with money. That's the first place. And this can be done with the building itself, even with sewage treatment, for instance. Most new home buyers don't know what an STP is. Then I think they come into the apartment, they realize, okay, it's almost...
MCs don't. Only when you're really stuck with a non-functional and you're trying to figure out why the blower is not working, then you're like in deep trouble.
But we live in a time where information is so easily accessible, and there are so many platforms like Common Flaw, housing.com, all of these websites that can educate new home buyers about these things. And honestly, if we sell the vision of what a green building brings, which is that you don't have to escape the city to enjoy your life, I think a lot more people will be incentivized to, turn the corner and buy one.
Thanks, Riya. I think that's an interesting idea. Now, Vikram, she's talking about having calculating the operational cost of a green building. Would that be something BAF's next contest that you could consider maybe?
Check. No, absolutely. I think I did mention this in the beginning of when I spoke as well, right? We don't feel the external impact. I mean, environment and ecology is something very external to us, right? We don't internalize that as much as possible. And it's interesting that Shreya mentioned that there has to be an intersection of policy, market, and community, right? Unfortunately, at this point of time, the user, right, I mean, is at the lowest end of the value chain, inherits a property, which is already built, doesn't know what you mentioned about, nobody even knows what an STP is, right? And then you're trying to do a retrofit, they just give up, right? They don't want to then make that work, especially in a community kind of a setting in an apartment where I'm sure a lot of us, the people here would echo saying that nobody even wants to be a part of the management committee. Thankless job, right? That's the phrase that we hear. So then you're talking about actually somebody doing a thankless job and worrying about environmental factor and efficiency and economic outcome of that, it's way far off, right? But we have to attack the problem, right? We have to be calculative about it. We have to hack the problem, right? And in fact, one of the things that we are doing is at BAF as well is trying to see how we can hack this basically, right? One of the things that we are discussing with Suhail and team in Credai is to say that how can we bring the awareness to a buyer right at the time of buying time, right? Today, I can very clearly say a historical based on historical perspective, majority of our members, the kind of interventions that we are helping them with is on legacy issues which probably if there is better awareness can be sorted right in the beginning, right? Now it's a different issue that because of collective wisdom it can get sorted much more faster, but I think there is a source problem, right? So one of the discussions we are having with Bhaskar, Anil, Suhail and team at Credai is saying that, when somebody is buying, can we imbibe some of these learnings about environmental benefits, downstream costs, will tomorrow KSPCB give you a notice or not and stuff like that, right? Sorry, I think Mr. Member Secretary is not yet here. He didn't come here, so I can confidently say that. People are scared of that, right? So how do you then keep that right in the beginning? So we are talking about creating a small handbook and a guide, both for a buyer and a new management committee. So hey, what is the checklist of things which are essential for an apartment? In that, we will push the environmental boundary. We'll say that these are the things which are environmentally relevant, and we'll probably apply the logic which Shreya is saying that this will also count from an operational cost point of view. That's the first part, right? Second is, I think we have to demonstrate a lot of solutions on an ongoing basis, which is again, I think Shreya and team are doing a fantastic job. We are running a program called Grey to Green, which is about reuse of treated water for the neighborhood parks and stuff like that. It's been a grind. It's been I know Shreya is smiling over there. We've had to get BBMP, KSPCB, etc. Still, it's a part of the process. But I think from BAF's point of view, we said, let's do it. Let's go ahead, right? Whether there is institutional support or not, but it is possible. So, yeah, I think it's not easy, but we need more and more hacking interventions that we need to do. We need to collaborate. We need to collaborate with the Credais of the world. We need to collaborate. So the policy guys are there. The market guys are there. Community is there. We can, and in some sense, this contest is, for us, contest is, yes, a way to build internal consciousness, but it's also a way to say, can we declare to the outer world how we want to make some of these things happen? But I think we need to move the needle that way.
And how is experience working with bringing different stakeholders, not just with the community, but also with the various government departments that are in the clue? I mean, especially if you're putting out treated water and you have to talk to like BBMP or the Lake Department and KSPCB, everybody has to be in sync, right?
I think it's an interesting and an exciting opportunity. I do keep talking within our own, and I know within our governing council, we keep talking about it ourselves to say that what is the purpose of us being involved in something like BAF, right? I mean, a lot of times, is there a material incentive? No, right? Is there something which we are doing out of our time? Yes, of course, we are also having our professional lives, right? I mean, is that a thankless job? Absolutely yes, right? But I think there is something interestingly strategic and critical that is getting built over here, which is exactly that network aggregation that is happening right now. And for a lot of us, that's the high, right? I think there's a definitive opportunity to impact the city and its growth because we are able to bring together a whole set of apartments who are in some sense similar communities, right? Have similar challenges, etc. But that number is attractive for various stakeholders, right? Like today, the fact that I think we are working with Shreya and team is that if that pilot of Grey to Green flies, I think there's an opportunity to take it to gazillion liters of treated water every day, which if all of our members participate. Similarly, with the government as well, we have seen that if you go and approach them with the numbers, we at least have a seat on the table. We are getting an entry today, right? And we are able to force that conversation to a certain extent. It's a start. People are listening, right? There is an opportunity because of the larger aggregation of the community. I think we are making small steps out there. The fact that today we've been able to build relationship with different departments, civic agencies, I don't think so we are yet there to force the narrative yet on that. but definitely an opening has been done. So today we have regular interaction with all the line agencies, BESCOM, BWSSB, regulators like KSPCB, KERC, the higher departments like Ecology and Environment, Energy Department, all of them, right? The Electrical Inspectorate, all of them which have, I mean, in that set of impact on the building which can create environmental impact as well, they are there. They are the policy makers, right? So in some sense, we are pushing the boundary there.
Right. I had this question for the member secretary. I was hoping he'd join, right? But given he's not here, maybe you and Shreya could answer in terms of, is there a rethink? Is there directionally, are we going towards looking at housing societies or the way, multi-dwelling units are looked at from a policy and a regulatory perspective, right? Like KSPCB looks at apartments as like bulk generators, or BBMP looks at it bulk generators. You're seen as like industrial, whatever, level red or things like that. How do we, but it's not the same, right? Residential spaces are completely different and need to be looked at through a separate lens. How do we get there? Are we getting there? Is there any change that you folks see?
Yeah, I think there is a change happening, but it's very slow. See, they have been, and I empathize with them also once in a while, sorry to say that. I think they are loaded with legacy systems. Government systems are not the way we think it is, right? And that has been my personal learning. There's so many layers to it in terms of how the policy making happens, etc., right? Especially in different departments, inter-departments, etc., and all that. It is true that today I think the fact that residential community is not looked at as a category which requires a slightly different lens to view as compared to commercial, industrial, etc., especially as far as pollution and environmental norms are concerned, is a challenge. Every time we have to go and talk in that language to say we are not, don't classify as a bulk and equivalent to a small commercial player kind of stuff, right? Because a commerce operates very differently, right? Commerce operates a system for material commercial benefit, whereas a residential complex is not equivalent to that. But slowly I know that there are changes happening, right? For example, last year, I think since the last few years, there's been work on for example, the solid waste management bylaws which has been happening, which you would also know. I see Malini here. A lot of them have done a lot of work on that. If you see, there is a little bit of nomenclature change which has come, right? Categorizing apartments, etc., and not looking at that category as something which is just based on numbers and bulk, right? The nature of the production of waste, etc., is all calculated and stuff like that. So I think that changes is happening slowly, but unfortunately the need over there is for good progressive individuals who can absorb that. Now, in the solid waste management space, that incremental impact which happened was also because we had somebody like, say, Randeep sir being there, etc., and all that, who understand and absorb that sense, in some sense, the inputs from all the community stakeholders. Even in Pollution Control Board, today I think somebody like Mr. Srinivasulu he wants to make the regulator be very mainstream, right? Be closer to the people, which I think is a good approach, right? Because at the end of the day, regulation is not just about controlling things, etc., right? It is, regulation should work for people. So we need people over there who understand that sense. And they need to take that agenda forward, and it is unfortunately a need, necessity, an occupational hazard for people like us to keep rebuilding that relationship. So for all of us, I think if today Mr. Srinivasulu is there, if he's not there, somebody else comes, then you have to build that relationship and momentum with them and take it forward from there. There's no other way to do it.
Thanks. Shreya, do you want to add to that? Okay. So one of the things, at least I've been noticing in the last few years, as whether as an MC member or otherwise, is every association, every apartment has to reserve a certain amount every year for some capital expense. There's some new regulation. You have to now. This is compulsory. Now you have to your diesel generator needs a certain kind of standards for pollution check. Something or the other keeps happening every year in the last whatever decade. You probably are spending something new in your apartment, right? Some of it, at least in the earlier part, was all regulatory. You had to comply, you had to reuse your treated water, you had to have rainwater harvesting, etc. So in my apartment, for example, most of it was retrofitted. But in the last few years, more recently, we're seeing it's much more like an optional thing. It's conscious decisions in terms of environmental sustainability as well as in terms of economics. We are seeing EV charging stations, we are seeing solar rooftop. Many of these things are happening as well. And of course, things like terrace gardening and much more, where community is much more involved as well. So when you look at these kind of decisions, and my next question is to Manoj, how do you kind of make the case, business case, in terms of, ROI is always like, 5 years, 6 years or longer or something. How do you, what do you tell MCs to kind of convince them that these decisions are important to take now?
See, ROI, whenever we look at the ROI, it has to be looked at a longer perspective. So today, my limited experience with the, some of the MC committees on solarization, what I see that most of the people look at what is the investment for today's investment. They don't look at investment beyond 10 years, beyond 15 years, beyond 25 years. There are technologies in solar has been matured which can sustain for 25 years. So for example, in Enphase we have a micro inverter, which is one of the third generation inverter technology, which can sustain 25 years. And we give the warranties for 25 years. But if we talk to the MCs, they immediately talk about what is the cheapest available option available in the market. So the cheapest available options sustain it only for 5 to 7 years. It requires additional investment of replacement or maintenance. So one has to look at the maintenance aspect of sustaining this project, because the theme here is sustainable renewable energy management, right? So that is what is going to help us for a sustainable living for our future generations. Any decision, one point to share it with the MCs is whether it is solar, whether it is any other investment in waste management or anything you look at, should be looked at for a long-term perspective. ROIs needs to be calculated. ROI is just an Excel sheet management. So you input something, you manipulate it, you get the output, right? It's very simple. People who understand the Excel can easily play around, put some assumptions, put some percentage, and get them convinced. But actual reality, what today the challenge everybody is looking at is, the money we invest, is it going to sustain for a longer time? Do we need to reinvest? The resources are limited, but the resources should be wisely invested. So if for that we need to look at the technologies. That there are many technologies evolved in any part, anything what we covered in this today's environment related challenges, technologies have been advancing. But India, many technologies has come here, many more are going to come. So we are always resistant to look at the latest technology. We would have to be happy with the one generation before with the lower investment.
Do you want to just give us some examples of some of these technologies?
See, for example, if you look at the solar, the domain I am coming from. So there are 3 generations of technology. Each has its own advantage, disadvantages. So the one thing which we have to look at is the longevity of the investment. So about 20 years, 25 years of investment. And then the extra generation of energy, the additional investment and the capital can bring in with the technology advantage. Next thing is the connectivity. Everything today is intelligence-based. It should be monitorable. It should be connected. System should be connected and anywhere in the world, and nobody has to go check it. Just click of a button on an app, you should be seeing, hey, how my solar generation is happening. Which are the panels not working? Why is that the panel not working? So everything should be touch of a button. People should be, nobody has time today. So today everybody wants, it's in a fast moving world, right? So we have to really look at, optimize with we have to bring in the efficiency in the systems. That really helps. And then we can easily explain to people, because everything should be on a data basis, because the system, the generation, the consumption, and we can always control our load. So today in America, today even at home, everybody look at energy as energy management at homes. We are not used to it. It's going to happen in India. And now the grids are coming, private grids are coming. So everything, and each of the apartments can have a grid by themselves if the government allows, because government has to allow the MNRE and the Energy Commission has to help the people self-generate and use those energy, and they should be able to sell it to the adjacent apartment if there is excess energy. Those technologies are available. We have already demonstrated those technologies.
Not just energy, actually even treated water and so many,
Yeah,
compost, so many other things are actually tradable within communities, right?
Yes.
We're not yet there.
Yeah. So these are all things can happen to the policy changes. And I know that India, we are looking at future in a big way, and many things are coming. We have seen a lot more changes in the last, say, in a couple of decades. In every year of, area of activity. So it is, sooner or later, I think it will happen. But the whole management of resources is done by the MC committee in an apartment when it comes through. And the MC committee, what I understand, is a limited tenure. And the tenure changes, new committee comes, decisions are still not completed, and it's been passed on to the other committee. And it's been looked at, many angles. Those things can be standardized, and some kind of a policy can be framed, and for each of the activities for environmental conservations, if you can create a basic policy and hand it over to all these apartment associations, and they can add their own requirement in addition to the what has been basic mention. That would greatly help in the decision making. Yeah.
Thank you, Manoj. Do you want to add to it, Sohail, from a developer community, like what are the things that you are looking to now equip apartments with in terms of technology and green solutions? What has become more standard? Of course, regulatory wise, like dual plumbing and many of these have to be done. But beyond that, are you looking at sensors? Are you looking at I don't know what else? Internet of Things. There are lots of stuff happening, but what is Bangalore's builder community looking at?
So in the waterfront, since Bangalore has reached a critical stage, there's lots of work happening and lots of technologies available. I mean, I saw the awards, and some of them, I saw Lalitamba's photo, which showed the aerators and stuff. So that's one of the low-hanging fruits in terms of conserving water. But technology-wise, I think energy is a big place where a lot of innovation can happen. That's a much ignored space in the building community space as of now. It's not yet there. I mean, it's not a challenge right now. But there's a huge scope of development in that, in terms of... so I realized when I did a green building recently that there's almost 40-50% savings in the energy consumption that I achieved, which was not really captured by the MEP consultant. He could not advise us right, because he had not worked in that domain. So there are a lot of small companies coming up in this space, and I think energy is one way where a lot of sustainability developments can happen. Water is though already, I think, up there, and builders as well as communities are adopting a lot of good techniques. For example, there are now capital investment is one, but there are lots of solutions which comes on SaaS model where you don't have to think twice in terms of implementing those solutions. So MC doesn't have to take a big decision on that front. And it results in a lot of savings in terms of resources and money as well. So energy is one area we would look at. And in terms of policy, there's lots of things that the government has to do to make it water positive and stuff. As Shreya mentioned, the STP is decentralized, but it has its own challenges, because nobody knows how to maintain an STP. So one of our strong advocacies to the government and the PCB is that you really need to either take ownership of the STP or make sure you have authorized vendors who are owners of that. Now PCB has made all of these norms very stringent. They are asking us to connect the STP parameters to a command center, and if you violate those norms, the penalties are very hefty. And it's not the job of the RWA to maintain an STP. It's just one of the features which ideally the government should have been running. But now they put the onus on the builder and the community to maintain such a system. And they're further putting more penalties and stuff. Now, the other scary thing is that ED is involved, and now they're saying that if you send untreated water out into the drain, we're going to put a penalty of 5 crores on the community and the developer, whoever is running the show. So it's all getting into murkier situations where government is just washing their hands off from their responsibilities, and there is no technologies available which is authorized by government, which is running. So we need a lot of effort from the government in setting right the entire sewage treatment process itself, which is one of the biggest pain points, if I understand, for any community. All the other things are manageable, but this is one big pain point. Because once a sewage system goes bust, it takes a lot of experts to come in, which are not available, and a lot of time. And all the time the consumers are suffering the smell and the non-availability of the thing to be disposed and stuff. So one thing is in sewage management. Now, where things are working, now there's a lot of excess water. What do you do with that? Nobody knows. We need a marketplace, a government-sponsored marketplace to be trading in water, which you mentioned. There is requirements, say farmers need those water, that water is very nutrient-rich for farming. And it can be used, as Shreya was saying, with the right parameters, it can be used for construction. But we don't know where to buy it from. Therefore, we dig borewells, which is not allowed to do. But we also need water for construction. And we don't have treated water available as a single source that you go here, you get it. So there is a marketplace that PCB says they're working on, and it needs to be fast-tracked and come out, because all of these communities are generating water, and they don't know what to do with it. Now, there are technologies available to reuse it, but there's a lot of stigma associated with it. So it's best to trade those waters. So that's another thing with respect to treated water. We also need some policies to, in case they've already made it zero discharge communities. You're not allowed to send anything out. So do you allow us to recharge the groundwater? There are no parameters for that. So we need policies in multiple levels of water treatment, which allows you to, say, recharge the groundwater and improve your borewell levels. There are no borewell waters available, but if you do this, your water tables can definitely improve. But then you need to set a parameter of what is allowed to be recharged and monitor those parameters rather than monitoring the STP parameters. So these are some of the points that...
Thank you so much, Sohail. Yeah, I was going to come to Shreya. Before I go to Ajay, actually I had this question. If you want to just use the opportunity to explain the Greater Green program, I think it'd be great. Yeah.
So like Sohail said, there's a lot of, I think it's really commendable. Actually, we'd like to give a hand to everyone who's maintaining an STP, because it's a very complicated system. And the fact that everyone here is a taxpayer and they're still doing this as, I would say, as a service to the city.
And we still pay all the sanitary charge
Exactly.
and the garbage cess, everything we pay.
Yeah, no, but
yes.
But I think it's high time that there was an economic incentive for doing this, and it's very encouraging to see that builders really need water, because now there is money in the game. It's the same with industry. So, we have been working on 3 campaigns. One is Greater Green, like Vikram just explained, where we're trying to work with BBMP. We've done a trial run in the Yelahanka zone of using wastewater for a park. But even if all the parks in Bangalore and the medians were watered using wastewater, it would only count for 34%. Now, the problem with taking water from decentralized STPs and putting it in farms, which would be the ideal solution if it were possible, is the distance. And then there are huge carbon emissions and cost associated with that. So using it circularly within the city for both industry and construction are things that we really think will make a big difference. So what's also been encouraging to see is we've been speaking to industries, especially textile manufacturers, and there are quite a few in the city. They have several factories. They really do, there is a push now from the consumption perspective. A lot of these are multinational corporations that probably don't even sell their products here. But people elsewhere in the world are saying, we really want to have clothes that we know are not produced using huge amounts of water. So they're willing to pay for tertiary treatment systems, which can take the water from apartments and then put it through this tertiary treatment system, and then it's good enough for them to use. However, there is a challenge over there, which is the transportation and conveyance. So I think that something that's really needed is a lot of interconnection between the government and the marketplace. They should allow pipelines in public roads from apartments to these industries. And it's going to be a challenge to do. It requires planning, but if that's done, there's huge amounts of savings in terms of the transportation costs. Then you can really make an economic case for wastewater. Apartments can also earn something for it. Right now, the premium that the industries or builders would have to pay, they would be paying they would be paying more for wastewater than they would be for fresh water. Plus, they have the added onus of, will this new home buyer have a problem with the building that I've just constructed? I think Sohail made an excellent point here today. I just want to repeat it, which is you need to incentivize new home buyers to make green choices. And the problem is that a lot of these are future facing policies. Like people talk about carbon allowances for companies. Personal carbon allowances might be something that comes into the future. But it's so hard for it to actually percolate to the ground, and we need action now. So if there was some way to route CSR money towards green building, and saying that because the building and construction sector accounts for 35% of emissions. That's a huge amount. So even if we fix the transportation problem, if buildings continue, and now is the time we're growing. So there's no point retrospectively thinking, oh, we should have done something then. Now is the time to act, and we really need to think about how those incentives could be, woven into the policy framework. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shreya. Excellent point. But I just want to we talked about from a home buyer perspective, from an apartment MC perspective, but if we can just look inward and look at the individual, all said and done, the apartment communities are largely populated by individuals from the higher income brackets, peoples whose lifestyles and carbon footprint is like way high. We order in, we take personal transportation everywhere. There is a certain issue there in the way we live. And what would you say, Ajay, to that? Where do we start, and how do you I know this is not the job of the MC, this is not the job of this state, so to say, but we really have to do something. You can't say, this is individual choice. We're really not there anymore. There is a climate crisis. It's not climate change anymore.
It's a tough one, but I think it comes down to being a responsible citizen, right? For any of us, I think whether you come from a background that can afford something or can't afford something, I think there is a legacy that we all leave. And I think if you're interested in life beyond yourself, I think we need to recognize that a lot of, it's interesting, we still think about these as issues that are coming our way, but I think just recognizing that we're in the middle of many of these issues today. Just from a climate perspective, we're likely to hit that dreaded 1.5 degrees that people have been talking. We've been speaking about this for about 15 years, but we now have about 6 years and about 300 days left to hit that number. And I think many of us don't recognize, I think we're still talking about buildings and construction and embodied carbon and operational carbon in the context of today. I think what we haven't started to really recognize is how risky the world is going to be in the years to come. I think from a Bangalore perspective, there are two very, very significant things that are likely to happen. One is our population is going to double, not in 20 years, but potentially in the next 10 years. And this is on account of two things. There's going to be heavy migration from the agricultural sector into the cities. The other is Bangalore is, for whatever reason, we heard it today, we talk about just the weather in Bangalore, but there are various other factors. A lot of the cities in India, including Delhi and Bombay and Calcutta and Chennai, are very, very deeply in risk on account of what's likely to come the next couple of years.
Just to add to it, Bangalore's land surface temperature has become so high, so it's not just about water tables and air pollution and emissions and all of these other issues, but it's also about our physical and mental well-being, which we really not paying attention to.
Exactly, and I think it comes down literally to that, right? Because with all of this growth, we're talking about why do we need to move to a green building. I think there's a lot more than the economic incentive. I think there is a massive well-being incentive that we simply don't recognize because it's not talked about. Or everything that a builder tries to sell you, everything our imagination has made us think about is a city of concrete. We don't think, Bangalore doesn't have a city. We've come from a garden city to a pub city to an IT city. We don't want to go back to a garden city. That's ridiculous. We want to now move to a concrete jungle like Singapore or some other of country in the world. That's the aspiration. Now that's a really of dangerous aspiration for a city in the tropics, in the global south, in a city like Bangalore, where just the vulnerability, the difference in equality is so large that you can't suddenly concretize the city and imagine that everyone will be taken along. So I think there's massive danger in the way we're building our cities for the future. I think what's going to happen very quickly is we're going to have to respond because we're seeing floods in Koramangala and in some other parts but this is going to be a recurring thing every month. Forget rainwater harvesting and trying to manage your energy. How are you going to manage water when your basement is flooded. We're not thinking about issues that I think are very, very sort of close in terms of how and our planning isn't taking. So I think new buildings, apart from being a green building, also needs to be climate resilient. We need to build smarter. We need to ensure we're not building in lakes. We need to ensure that we're sort of creating differently. So I think that what we really need is a consciousness for the citizen. We need awareness.
And what about the moral responsibility that we hear, in the sense we are articulate, we have a voice, and don't we need to ensure that the city is livable and inclusive and ensures there is, there's clean air and clean water for everybody, not just our own residents, right?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I think when we start to look at this as a community, as a city, as a ward, as areas in a certain way, and say there is great joy and well-being. I mean, these are apartment communities, right? And in the apartment community, you see the value of sharing resources, of being able to sort of do things. Now you start to enlarge that to areas beyond you. If you talk about sort of managing water in your area, it's not just your apartment. If the whole ward or the whole sort of area there starts to manage water more effectively, everyone benefits. So I think just starting to change the way we start to look at this idea of resources, saying that resources, it's not your and my resources, it's shared resources that we all are supposed to sort of manage with. So I think for me, a big part of this really comes down to being more transparent about what the world is going through today, and to be able to provide the choices that we need, whether that's through policy, whether that's through incentive. I think it's imperative today. These are not discussions of that's nice to have. It's important to have, and it's just absolutely required over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Ajay, and I'm going to let Vikram have the last word. And I have a very, fundamental question here. So if you look at, BAF members, if you look at the average age, it's probably the gray hair age. So what is BAF's idea in terms of engaging the young? I'd like to just, end on a note where we look forward to the future. How do we engage? I was just reading, there are 420 million millennials in India, which is more than the population of US and Canada combined. So we're talking about that. Now that crowd is probably their tenants. They may not necessarily be owners yet in an apartment, but how can BAF engage with that? Because they're going to be the next round of MCs, and if they can be somehow engaged and educated, so they make better choices than some of us have, so maybe we'll be in a better shape.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether to count myself into, I have gray hair, but I mean, it's not just the gray hair, right? I mean, we need to be able to involve what I would like to call people who have made the buying choices and are living there and are economically sort of using that house, right? Which is your 30 to 50-year-olds, basically, right? If you look at the demographic profile of the people who are largely owners and residents of that, right, are people who would have bought these apartments in the last 10, 15 years from the economic upliftment which has happened in the 2 decades, right? So it will essentially be people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., right? So, but they've already made that choice. So in that sense, it's an important investment to make, to say that, what are their children? So I've lived in an apartment since 2005 where, I mean, couples had just moved in, people are just in their new phases of their lives or just had small kids, etc. They're all now going to college, basically, right? So now those are the people who are it's interesting that I think that generation is very different, because I see a corollary in terms of what kind of life choices that they're making. People are studying psychology, people are studying environmental sciences, etc. and all that, when 2 decades back we didn't have that choice. So I do have hope that generation probably is more open to these discussions. But yeah, what are we doing? Not yet. I think it's a wake-up call for us also. What Ajay is saying is important. I think it's a current discussion. It's not a future discussion. It's a well-being discussion, not just an environmental discussion. We in our own ways are now in BAF, we are expanding the scope of our thinking beyond just the building, the MC, the community inside, etc. slightly more. We are now talking about creating programs which engage youth. How can we leverage their interest, awareness, etc. Baby steps right now, but I think we are getting there. We need to look at these pockets of opportunity and involve them in the conversation. Children, youth. We also have a phenomenal base of senior citizens. Nagaraj Rao sir spoke about how we just kick-started a program called BAF Seniors, where we are saying that, how can we leverage their experience experience and energy to be able to, because a lot of places, nobody's there even to participate in the committee, right? It's only senior citizens who are coming in and saying, hey, let me at least give some time, so let's at least support them kind of stuff. But yeah, we have to break it down, attack different communities, talk this language, we have to talk it now, which is one of the reasons also for initiatives like this, which is till few years back, we were very comfortable maybe fighting the small battles, these notices, government, policy, guideline, etc. But I think it has to go beyond that now, right? It's just government is just one of the players, stakeholders. We have to now take ownership more and more between us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm afraid we don't have time for questions, but these are important topics, and I hope we continue the conversation and lead very clearly into action and at the soonest. Thank you all.
Please remain on the dais, Rama. We would like to express our happiness on this. Very interesting points, one or two scary ones also. Thank you, sir. Vikram, please do the honors. Thank you.
But yeah, absolutely. I think we are building this into our consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. Ganesha Habba is around the corner. This year we are looking forward to a great Habba and after Habba effect for a clean and environmentally safe one. Towards this end, we have a message from the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. I would like you to pay attention for this short video. Can we have that video, please? Thank you. That was a nice message from the KSPCB. So after this, we will have the awards for the medium and the large apartments. Before that, I would like to invite the sponsors to share their message. May I have the Enphase team? Manoj, are you here? Or, okay. Venu. Yeah, sorry.
Good evening, everybody. This is Vinod here. I represent Enphase Energy. Can I have the PPT, please? So while it is getting full screen, I'm representing Enphase, a leading home energy management company, and I would stress on a very important component in a solar system, which is inverters. And I would give a brief about how inverter selection is important and what are the Enphase features, advantages, and benefits going through. Yeah. Thank you. So can I go to the next slide? Yeah. So this is a traditional solar system, and as you look here, you have solar modules or panels which are connected, and you could have multiple series of modules or panels, and these are connected, with a grid connected inverter, which converts the DC energy which a solar module is producing into an AC power. And as you know, all of us who consume at homes and commercial buildings or apartments typically consume AC power, and that's how this diagram works, that the solar energy is produced by the modules in DC form, and you need an inverter to convert a DC into an AC power. So an inverter is a heart, soul, brain of the entire solar system. So consider this as your central processing unit for your computer, and you might have a beautiful monitor, but if the brain of the system is not strong enough, you may not have a very good computer. So inverter is very similar to that. Now, when Enphase was formed in 2006, and before that, when our founders, were looking to do something in climate change, they were looking at this particular traditional system, and this particular system had a lot of, inefficiencies and drawbacks and restrictions. So a grid-tied, simple traditional inverter converts, large amount of DC into AC, and through any simple sense, if you use a big chunk of material and you are converting, energy, it could be an inefficient, system. The efficiency may be a little drag. This particular traditional system was also not very smart. You couldn't monitor each and every module. You could only get, very limited data and so forth. And also, this system was not flexible, not modular. It was very fixed. It was very rigid. You could use only one particular capacity of system, and then the extension was always a challenge. So what they did, they made a system which was smart, safe, reliable, and modular. So we'll just look into each of the factors. So this is, I would say, constitutes two components, which is smarter. This is a smart system, and this is the inverter. This is the inverter. This is what was, discovered in 2006. And this particular inverter gets fitted with each and every module. And what it does, it makes the system smart. So once each and every modules have the system, and through, IoT, you're able to track each and every module, and which is on the left corner, you could see that you can actually able to track or see each and every module. And also, because of this particular system and because of the distributed architecture, where each inverter is connected to each module, the non-performance of any particular module because of shadow or dust does not affect the performance of other module. Again, taking your attention to the extreme left, you could see few modules are in dark blue. Those are the modules affected because of a shadow. If it was a traditional system, the entire system, all the panels would have gone to that lowest producing module, which is not the case with this particular microinverter. Only that particular module which is getting affected will get affected. Others will continue to perform. So that's the key advantage, and gives the smart ability to produce extra generation than a traditional system. And reliability. So this is a global firm. We invest more than 40 million every year in R&D, in research and development. We develop the best ASIC chip to power this particular microinverter, and we have a failure defect rate of 0.05%, and against an industry standard of 2 to 3%. So this is systems which are supposed to run for 20-25 years. It's a long-term reliable system. And these systems are flexible. So you could start with a small system, and you could expand as your capability and as your requirements evolve. And this is modular. So you are not restricted with one wattage of modules, one make of modules. You could use mix and match different wattage of modules, different make of modules, and make a very modular system. So these are how these inverters are actually placed on the roof, on top of which the modules would sit, and these all can be tracked with an Enphase app. And tomorrow, when we would go ahead and launch storage, these systems can also be compatible with the battery-based system in future. So it's a complete compatible in the same platform kind of a system. The key factor, one of the features what I said in the starting, was safe. So what do you mean? What I mean by that? So when you look at any traditional system, it empowers, or it uses a lot of DC power, because the inverter converts DC to AC, and the inverter is connected with series of modules, could be 20, could be 25 in one particular string, and it converts the DC to AC at that particular level, and you lay DC cables there. So there's a lot of DC transmission which happens, and because of which, what happens sometimes, if it is not properly maintained, this could happen. These are called DC arc fault damages. If DC cables which are laid, and if there are any wear and tear, it could lead to arcing and it could lead to fire. So these are live cases in United States, in Europe and Australia, where the solar penetration is much higher than India. And there are cases like this. So this is pretty dangerous. So very simple example to understand is, all of us use power banks and all of us travel in flights. So one announcement which they always make while traveling in flights is they say that do not put your power banks in check-in baggage. Always use in hand-in baggage, because power banks are DC. And if you put in check-in baggage and there's a heat generation, heat dissipation, it could burst. So that's one power bank. Imagine using 100 panels on the roof, and just imagine how much DC it could generate with a traditional system. So it is, pretty much unsafe. When you look at microinverters, and these inverters are pure AC system. There is no DC here. The DC to AC happens at the module itself, and there is no, AC, there is no DC after that. It's a complete AC system. The entire transmission of energy happens in AC. This is the safest system for solar. And this also qualifies in United States, the National Electrical Code, and it follows the mandates of US rapid shutdown. Today, Enphase in US has the maximum market share. It has more than 60% market share in the residential systems in US, and one of the reasons is that it follows a pure AC system. There is no DC on the roof, which gives you a lot of peace of mind. The end customers, the installers, everybody, a huge peace of mind. So just to summarize, if you look at the advantages, as I said, can you go to the previous slide, please? Yeah, previous slide. Yeah, advantages. The non-performance of one module does not affect the performance of others. It's a very, very modular, flexible system, long-term warranties. We start with 10 years, you can go up to 25 years of warranty in India. Module level monitoring, you can actually monitor each and every module. You are able to, have a very, very safe system and very flexible system. And we have a state-of-the-art application, which you can see it on phone, which you can see it on web, and you are able to track what you are producing and how much you are producing and so forth. And finally, who we are. So we started in 2006, today is 2022, so we are about 16 years old in the industry. We are headquartered at Fremont in California, and in India we are headquartered at Bangalore, right here in Mukesh Palya, in IndiCube office. And we are in India for the last 5 years. The company was founded by two people, Mr. Raghu Bellur and Mr. Martin. Mr. Raghu Bellur is an Indian, as the name suggests. It's a very proud thing for us. And currently, the company is run by an Indian, Mr. Badri Kodaraman. And we, in India, employ about 1,500 employees, which is about 60% of our workforce. This product is designed in India. That's another proud moment for us. And we have also started manufacturing in India. We are a profitable company, listed, and we have revenues in excess of $1 billion, close to 1.4 to be precise. These finances are important because, again, when you're putting a system, you're not putting a system for 5 years, 7 years, or 2 years. You're going to put a system for 25 years. It's essential that apart from technology, the company should also exist. And these figures say the companies will exist. It's a profitable, company. So these are a few projects which we have done in Bangalore. We have done in Brigade, one of the largest installations of over 300 kilowatt. And we have touched all premium buildings, premium apartments through our partners. And this is something, this technology is gaining share, gaining mind share as well as market share. And as I say, this is a system which not only gives a safe system, but also gives a smart, reliable, modular system, and gives you peace of mind that solar will do what it's supposed to do over a period of 25 years. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Vinod. It kind of connects back to that panel discussion. While we may not be able to build green buildings once it's already done, but I think investment in Enphase and things like that will be able to give us peace of mind for over a period of time. Thank you so much. We'd like you to take a token of our appreciation. Rama, can you please bring the... All right, quick announcement. We'll be going through the rest of the award. After the award is awarded, please wait. We need to take a group photograph of all the people who have collected the awards. Okay. May I ask Smart Buy to come over and quickly share their message? Is the Smart Buy sponsor around here? What about RBuy? I'm sorry. Apologies. I'm sorry. I kept reading it as Smart Buy. RBuy, yes, yes. I mean, their byline talks about, saving the world from plastic. So I'm really keen to hear about it. Please.
Thank you. Right, we nearly missed that one. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't mind, I'll make a sort of a sideways stance here so that I can see the screen too. All right. So this is something that would surprise you, or it may not, depending upon how aware you are, right? But over 1 billion bottles and sachets every month is essentially released by us, primarily through consumption of laundry and home care products, right? And when we came across this information, we were also a little surprised. And it got us thinking towards a few things. So first things first, it got us thinking and it made us realize that first up, it is our mistake, or we are culpable for embracing single-use plastic just for the sake of convenience, for form, or for certain aspirational aspects that come through advertising, etc. Right? And therefore, it becomes sort of our responsibility to the future, like what many of the panelists have already said, right? It is our responsibility for the future to reduce the impact of our mistake. And at RBuy, it is our little initiative in this regard. And that is what we will go into in a little bit more detail, right? So what we have is a very convenient platform to refill certain parts of your domestic consumption without having to then reach out for another plastic container, right? Reuse what you have at home, right? So what we did was we went about doing our market research, reached out and talked to over 3,000 people, right? This is across corporates, across, in malls, we went to the authorities, and we even went to flea markets, and wherever we got an opportunity, we reached out to folks. And we started off our initiative over 3 years back, right, by first looking at delivering refills so that people can use their existing containers to then stock detergents, to stock hand washes, etc. Right? From then, we have moved on to piloting the smart refill kiosk. So if you can go back, yeah, right. So can you go back one, please? Yeah. So this is the form of our kiosk, or this is the version that we have currently, and it allows users to refill to the extent that they want, whenever they want, and we have a selection of products currently, which will evolve based on demand, based on our information, right, and based on the partnership that we forge. Yeah, please. Right, so what do we have currently? We have laundry liquids, floor cleaners, dishwashers, toilet cleaners, and liquid soap. And we have tried to maximize the footprint of very well accepted herbal and natural product producers. So that includes Herbal Strategy, Bricks, etc. We also have certain product companies who form the backbone of many of the other brands which are there in the back market already. Right? These include Clean Care and Nixie. So we'll just have a brief demo. We tried to hire mainstream actors, but this is what we came with.
Smart refill kiosk for your society. It is easy to access and gives the convenience to refill at any time of the day.
It is audible,
All you
right?
need is a handy reusable container. Select product in your mobile app. Choose predefined quantity from 190 ml to 5 liter. Click start button to refill your bottle. Reduce plastic consumption and save money.
So, and I mean, if you missed that, in essence, what the person did was grab the bottle that was readily available at home, walk down to the kiosk in his own apartment, and select the amount that he wanted and fill only that much, right? He was not carrying money. Everything is taken care of through the app, right? It is that convenient. And in the process, obviously, there is no additional plastic container coming to the environment, right? So we have a few of our customers speak. I won't read word for word, but we essentially have very eloquent gentlemen and ladies who are of few words. But in essence, they've been very positive in their feedback, right? And they really liked the application and what it really brought to them. This is a bit about our team. We are still in the infancy, right? And so we are folks from premier institutions and companies who have then, who did that thinking, who paused to think and then have gone about doing this for the rest of their time till, it comes to some sort of a logical conclusion. So what we seek is the partnership with the associations and with other authorities so that we can jointly walk this path together, right? We can ensure that that second use, third use, or fourth use takes place of each piece of plastic or glass or whatever it is that is lying in your home, right? And that is what we seek. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. We are looking at 250 as the optimal size, but that's not a fixed number. Little bit here or there might vary. When we say 250, it can be 250 and above in terms of units, but it depends on the consumption, it depends on the penetration. If the penetration is great, we can take on a much smaller unit also. Subsequently, right now we have a fixed kiosk where we have suitable kind of momentum within the apartment. We have fixed kiosk, but then if suppose it's a cluster, right, we might have to go to that kind of an approach, but we are not there yet, right? Because it has certain operational challenges when it comes to a mobile van, and it takes away from certain things like convenience in the middle of the night. Because if you look at the typical person who works in the IT environment in Bangalore, right? The day starts at maybe 9:30, so the guy has to get off and go at around 7:38, and he's back by around 10 o'clock in the night, right? Then he finds that, okay, he doesn't have a clean plate to have his dinner, so he might want to go out and get some dishwasher, right? And that is where, probably we come in. Now, if we have a mobile van, then he will have to then figure out where the van is.
So to add to that answer, let me come up another thoughts we have why we are not going with mobile van. Actually, we are saving 60 grams of plastic per one product, but we will not need to burn the petrol or carbon to save that plastic. So that's why we have to change the behavior first. So once we have that, let's see what way we can still reach out the larger audience. Is it audible, my answer? Yes. See, is it answer your question? So that's why we come up with cures. So we have to change the behavioral. Then only it will make, otherwise it will be one guy in the Yelaga, another guy is Mysore Road. It will not be carbon neutral. Yeah. This is unnecessarily burning the carbon, but it will be in terms of saving the plastic. But when we equalize the carbon, we are not nowhere. Yeah. So that's why we do not want to burn the carbon. So we will be going with where the density is there. So we have to change the behavior. Then slowly we believe others will change the behavior. So that way we reach out more. Thank you.
Please remain on. Would like to appreciate your support to this BAF event. Rama, please bring the memento. Please come. All right, now we'll go to the medium category apartments. The number of participants in this category were 91 out of 191, who are in the medium category, which is up to 300. Many of them were enthusiastic and were very happy to celebrate their effort and success in enhancing the green coefficient. I now request Luke sir, can you come on to the stage? We can. Thank you. The third prize winner in the medium-sized apartment category is Poet Tree Apartments. The MC representatives, please. Yes, art and green, correct? Poet and Tree, Poetry Apartments. The world is absolutely green, as we can see. They get a plaque, a check for 20,000, and a refill facility from RBuy, which is actually a smart buy. Okay, so congratulations, Poetry team. All right, the second prize winners are Fortius Waterscape. I've been there, it's a beautiful place. Very well managed green society. They have a very interesting new method of composting. We hope to hear from them in some time. Happy to invite the MC. Please come. Congratulations to the MC of Fortius Waterscape. Along with the plaque, to get a check for 30,000, and of course, facilities from RBuy. Thank you. And now, for the people on the top of the category, Shobha Palladian. The facilities include an amazing STP, water treatment plant, solid waste management apparatus, absolutely sized well. Their rooftop solar generation power capacity is one of the highest per apartment, I would say. Congratulations, Shobha Palladian. Please come over. Plaque for Shobha Palladian, a check for 50,000, and of course, facilities from RBuy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you folks. Be ready to be invited by many of the apartments to understand. You'd like to say something?
Yes, please. thank you for the BAF and the jurors. But most importantly, I would like to thank all the support staff who have been doing a wonderful job, and it has made our effort easier. So I would like to place on record their effort. Thank you very much.
I'll say the excellent encouragement that we have got from Luke sir for all our efforts in making our society greener. Always available, always encouraging us. Thank you, Luke sir.
Yeah, I think just to add, probably one of the younger ones and more nascent than the other societies. And I think there's plenty to learn from the experiences. We look forward to more sharing from you all. I think you've visited 190 apartments, and certainly there are lessons for us as well. Thank you very much. We look forward to the sharing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think you should be ready to participate in various cluster meetings where they would want to learn from you.
Sure,
Thank
certainly.
you.
We're open to it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, I want a quick input from Solar Square. Solar Square is here. Solar Square is one of our sponsors. Please come, sir.
So, can you pause the video first? I'll just want to introduce Solar Square first. So, first of all, thanks to BF for arranging this event. So BF has been the torchbearer for sustainability among top tier 1 cities. We have all we have seen cities like Bombay, Pune, but the work that BF is doing is phenomenal, among the sustainability. So to introduce Solar Square started in 2015. We were a small 5-10 member people started in Mumbai first. Since then, we have grown to a 300 people team, almost 100 megawatt in rooftop, and specifically in the CHS, that is Housing Society market. So we have specifically been targeting the Housing Society market because we feel that we understand the needs of the housing societies. Every housing society has a different, you can say, a need of how the system has to be installed or what guidelines have to be followed. So keeping in mind, we have also drafted a handbook or a guideline which will guide the societies which plan to go solar in future. Keeping in mind the highly volatile market the market is behaving right now. So to just start with, can we play the video, please? Yeah. Just a pause, please. Can you stop there? Can you pause, please? Yeah, sorry. So again, as you can see, we have for different housing societies, the need for structures, the design of structures has to be different. So we design structures through chartered consultants such that they withstand the wind speed, because we have to take care of the safety. Even if a single panel falls, it's a risk to life. So that is one thing we heavily invest upon. Secondly, you have seen that we have provided walkways, pathways for the for the roofs, the sliding roofs that have been seen. So it's not that we install and go. We also take care of the after-sale service, which is a very important factor. We give a 5 years AMC, a blanket AMC, as an offering to our sales, so that you don't have to take care of the system. And we also provide extended services, like Solar Square manages a portfolio of 80 megawatts, so we have a heavily capable after-sale service team as well. Continue, please.
We provide a free consultation. As I said, we have already we have presented a handbook type which we have already have in our stall. You are free to collect your copy from our stall. So it's a brand agnostic handbook just to guide the housing societies in the what they actually should look for. So that's about it. That's about Solar Square. And thank you, BF, again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Just wait. I will. Please come this way. I'd like to share a token of our appreciation for Solar Square for supporting this event. Thank you very much. Before we go to the last ones, I would like to call, is Citizen Matters here? I mean, we need Meera, yes. Meera, can you please come to the stage? We would like to appreciate the support for handling the, please come. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. Representatives of MyGate and Bolt, yes. Is anybody here from Bolt and MyGate? Please come, both of you come together. Thank you very much for helping us. You want to take a
Oh, yeah.
Yes, let's go. Thank you. All right. While we announced for this BAF Hasiru contest, it wasn't just a few of us in the governing council who could manage to reach out to 1,100 members of Bangalore Apartment Federation. Various clusters supported us, and amongst them there were few who really pushed pretty much, so much that 95, I think almost 100% of their members participated in this. And to recognize that effort, I would like to call Vikram on stage to give the memento to the cluster Begur 2. Srividya, please come. Please come. It was absolutely valuable, your support. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we would like to call representatives of Dulux, AkzoNobel. Thank you so much for supporting this event, sir. Please come.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have the last category, the large category. May I ask Ajay to come over? I'd like you to give away the. Sir, if you send him. Thank you, Ajay. He likes to be behind the scenes, but please come.
But can we give him a round of applause for all the years he's been behind the scenes?
You should, you should. All right. The third prize is awarded to Ajmera Greenacres, a community of 329 units. MC of Ajmera Greenacres, please come over. Commendable rainwater harvesting, waste composting plants, fantastic impact on environment. Congratulations, Ajmera Greenacres. Wonderful. A plaque with a check for 20K and facilities by RBuy. Thank you so much and congratulations. The second prize is awarded to Nagarjuna Greenridge. MC of Nagarjuna Greenridge, please come to the stage. Several positive impacts for the environment, also facilitated creation of a natural aviary around them. Congratulations. A plaque with a check for 30,000 and facilities by RBuy. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Nagaraj Rao, sir, may I have you on stage? And this year's apartment complex on the top in the large apartments category is Shobha Krishanthibam. 509 units located in Yelahanka cluster. Superb use of treated water, movement controlled LED. Amazing. Fantastic solid waste management practices. No use of chemical pesticides. So very pleased to have them on stage. Please come, sir. Plaque and a check for 50,000 along with facilities by RBuy. They deserve it. Congratulations once again. Thank you. We would like you to remain. We have a photograph that is needed of all the winners, so please do not leave. And before we go into the vote of thanks, I would like Dulux to come over and share their message to the group.
So, my name is Sonal Garg. I am project head from Dulux. And first of all, I just want to know what's EXO, because I just want to start the, that slide. Yeah, next. If you can go next. So what is ExxonMobil? ExxonMobil is the leaders in the business of coating, and we are in the industrial coating, performance coating, and marine coating, and we are from decorative, like for the business of the paints, of the wall painting, interior, exterior, and we are the leaders in this. It's not started, I think. Yeah, you can go in the next slide. Till the slide come, we'll come with a message. So we are basically in the Bangalore city. We are doing most of the repainting these are societies, because now a need for like for society is have to be repaint on time to time intervals. That is very, very important to make the building younger and for societies. And our main strength is like we are not doing only for painting, we are doing the civil works as well. And we have a team of empaneled. These are vendors who are doing the like civil works of leakages, arresting the leakages, and CP means we are doing the turnkey projects. And at the steps 1, we are doing these are all arresting all these jobs, and then we start the repainting. So this is the history of ExxonMobil. We have a 350-year history, and for globally, we are ranked third in this. Next. And the main investment of ExxonMobil, we are always in the innovations, introduce the new like the products, like we are innovation, the biggest range of elastomeric paints in the exterior, what we only introduced in the India in 2001. The film of the paint is the stretchable film that can be able to, there is the hair cracks. That is very important thing, because that is the source for the water inside. And we have the paint for exterior system, which gives the elasticity up to 1 mm. And the water should not absorb. Next. So these are the repainting, these all services in this. So I will invite our technical head, Dulux. He will explain how we are doing the repainting in terms of expertise basis. Yeah, please, Dulux.
Hi, good evening all. So usually earlier paint means we used to do the painting only for the aesthetic purposes. Now we are doing the painting was not only for aesthetic purpose, for the production of building also we will do the painting. So usually what are the normal issues we'll face in any repainting or any association means usually 4 to 5 problems will be visible. First thing is the cracks. Then after that there will be a shade fading. After that there will be algae fungal growth, and there will be efflorescence, and any dampness and seepage will be there because of bathroom coating issues. And these are the only major issues which we will be seeing in any apartment, and their severity may vary, depends on the maintenance of the buildings. So as a ExxonMobil, we have the solution for each and every issues in particular. So before taking up the painting works, we have to make sure surface is ready, which is free from whatever the seepages or whatever the issues which are highlighted, it has to be arrested. So for that civil works and all, we have our authorized empaneled contractor is there who is going to take up all the civil works. And after that we have authorized contractor from our end who is going to do the execution, so based on our recommendations. And we have a wide range of products which is having from 6 to 15 years. So it's not like that 6 to 15 years means earlier in market they used to give the depreciation warranty kind things, but now it's like flat warranty. Suppose if you are taking a 6-year product and a 15-year product, suppose if you are using a 15-year product, from day 1 to 15 years, whatever the issues will be there, ExxonMobil will take care. Even material, labor and axis. Whether it is jewelers, scaffolding, whatever, labor-based material, complete rectification till the last 15th year, we will bear the cost and we will make sure it is attended. This is the thing. And can you go for next slide? And these are the major repainting societies. And nowadays, fast-moving products is like 10 years and 15 years. So these are the major projects ongoing currently in Bangalore. You can see the Brigade Metropolis. That is almost like 2,800 flats. We started, and Elita Promenade, that is in JP Nagar, that one also we have started, and in Hebbal Godrej Woodsman Estate. So these are the major projects in Bangalore, and along with that, these are the list of projects which are doing. And even Shobha also we are doing. Shobha Diamond we have almost closing, and Shobha Amber, which is in Elanka, that one also we are done. And one more thing I want to tell about my products is usually whatever the fresh building or repainting building. So the major 90% of the building you will see the hairline cracks. That is like a normal day-to-day temperature differences and contraction and variation, you will see the hairline cracks. That is the root cause for each and every issues. Through the cracks, water will penetrate, and subsequent your dampness issue, algae fungus, discoloration, these issues will come. So to arrest these issues, we have a special products called elastomeric paints. We have three ranges of category, that is 10 years, 12 years and 15 years. So what is the speciality of this paint, elastomeric paint is, it is self-stretchable. So whatever the hairline cracks which will appear on the surface, it will correct, it will cover by stretching itself. It will not break or it will not tear. If you are not using any elastomeric paint, if you are using only acrylic paint, now once it surface cracks, that paint film will also cracks, then water will penetrate, you will see the issues. But our elastomeric paints will not allow them to expose to the weather conditions, so that which will give the more robust protection. So these are some landmark sites which are done in recent years. Currently we are doing almost 40-45 plus projects only in Bangalore repaintings. Thank you.
Governing Council, BAF and Technical Service Track team is very happy to conduct this BAF Hasiru Apartment Awards and contest, and for the members and non-members. I would like to thank Mr. Vijay Mohan Raj, IFS, Principal Secretary, Government of Karnataka, for inspiring us for more when we have met him several times. Your presence here will increase and motivate us, sir. Our sponsors have been very supportive to our activities in this World Environment Day program. Big thank you to all of you, Enphase, MyGate, Dulux, SmartFill, and so many other, Bolt, etc. Special thanks to cluster leaders who has participated their apartments in a big way, and special thank to all of the cluster leaders who are there here, who have come here. Special thanks to our GC members and track teams and volunteers for making this event success, and looking forward to for many more such coming years. We also thank to press for the coverage, and big thank you for the BIC for giving us this hall in a subsidized way, and for the press, I think some of you were here today, and I thank you so much. Thank you. I request everybody to be there, and we'll have a...
I just stood here back to thank our team. Our team comprises of Ajay, where are you?
Here.
Oh, here. Sorry. Such a big person, I'm not able to see. Luke, Vikram, who else is here? Pradeep, and Satish, Mohan. Mohan is there? Yeah. I mean, I want to thank every person who was involved. I think they have done a tremendous work with a lot of efforts put in for the last 3 months. Assessment made by Luke, visits by the jury, and Satish moving earth and heaven to get all the things done, Vikram guiding all of them together. I was happy. That is why I came, at least to say thanks to all the people and my own team. Thank you.
Namanayati Nayaka Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vitata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravid Uchala Janga Yamuna Ganga Uchala Jalasitaranga तब शुभ नामे जाहे तब शुभ आशीष